Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it and I hope you'll all doing well. So today's video is another Formula 1 discussion, and before we get into it I just want to make my usual disclaimer. Everything I'm talking about today is based on publicly available information, including media reports and general discussion within the Formula 1 community. I don't have any insider information. I'm not claiming that any rumors are true, and wherever I give my opinion, it's exactly that, my opinion based on what's publicly available. Right then, let's get into it. Over the last few weeks and months, there have been plenty of articles talking about Max Verstappen's future. I've already made a few videos reacting to those stories because, whether you believe them or not, they are certainly generating a lot of discussions. One question that keeps coming up is this: if Max Verstappen were ever to leave Red Bull Racing in the future, who would replace him? Now, just to be absolutely clear, this is completely hypothetical discussion. As things stand today, Max Verstappen is a Red Bull Racing driver. Nothing in this video should be taken as suggesting otherwise. I'm simply reacting to a question that's been discussed publicly. One name I've seen mentioned in some articles and online discussions is Oliver Bearman. Again, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it's important. I'm not saying Red Bull are going to sign Oliver Bearman. I'm not saying there are negotiations taking place or that any reports are accurate. I'm simply reacting to publicly available reporting and sharing what I think. Personally, I'm not completely convinced. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Oliver Bearman is a fantastic young driver. Every time we've seen him, he has shown real talent, maturity and composure, especially considering how early he is in his Formula 1 career. I honestly think he's got a very bright future ahead of him. But when I think about Red Bull, I keep coming back to something they have done for years. They are junior drivers. Their junior driver program. If you look back over Red Bull's history, they've always put a huge amount of effort into developing their own drivers. That's been one of the foundations of the team for a very long time. They invest in young talent. They support those drivers through the junior categories, and when the timing is right, they often give them opportunities in F1. That's why I'm not completely convinced they'd immediately look outside their own system if a seat ever became available. Isaac Hedger is already racing in Formula 1, and Red Bull still have several exciting young drivers coming through their junior program. One name that has been attracting attention is Nikola Solov. He is another talented driver in Red Bull's junior system. Now, I'm not suggesting he'll definitely end up in Formula 1 or that Red Bull have any plans for him beyond his current development. I'm simply mentioning him because he's one of the young drivers people have been talking about based on publicly available information. So when I look at the situation, my first thought is that Red Bull might naturally look at drivers they already invested in before looking elsewhere. Now, does that mean Oliver Bearman couldn't ever drive for Red Bull? No. Formula 1 has a habit of surprising us all. We've seen unexpected driver moves before, and I'm sure we'll see plenty more in the future. So I'm certainly not ruling anything out. I'm just saying that based on what's publicly available today, I personally think Red Bull would probably consider its own driver program very carefully before looking outside it. Of course, that's just my opinion. I don't know what conversations are happening behind closed doors. I don't know what Red Bull are thinking, and I certainly don't know what any individual driver's long-term plans might be. Only the teams and the people directly involved know those things. Everything the rest of us discuss is based on publicly available information, and that's exactly what this video is. As for Oliver Bearman, I actually think he is in a very good place right now. He is continuing to gain very well for Formula 1 experience, and that's incredibly important for any young driver. Sometimes the best thing for a driver isn't rushing into one of the biggest seats on the grid. Sometimes it's about continuing to learn, gaining experience, making mistakes, improving and becoming a more complete driver. Earlier in his career, I honestly thought there was a possibility that Bearman might eventually become a candidate for Ferrari whenever Lewis Hamilton decides to retire from Formula 1. Again, that's just something I've wondered about over the last couple of years. It's not based on insider information, and I'm not suggesting Ferrari have any such plans. It's simply an opinion based on publicly available information and Bearman's obvious talent. The reality is that Formula 1 changes incredibly quickly. A driver who's linked with one team today could be linked with a completely different team 6 months later. Contracts change, circumstances change, teams change direction. Young drivers develop faster than expected. Sometimes experienced drivers stay around longer than people expect. There are so many moving parts that trying to predict the driver market years in advance is incredibly difficult. That's why I always try to be careful when discussing rumors. I think rumors are part of Formula 1 and they are fun to talk about, provided we remember that they are still rumors unless they have been officially confirmed. Personally, if I had to give my opinion today based on what's publicly available, I think Red Bull would probably look very close at the talent they already developed before signing a driver from another team. That doesn't mean Oliver Bearman isn't talented enough. It doesn't mean reports you read are wrong. It simply means that that's how I see the situation today. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and if something changes in the future, I'll happily make another video discussing it. That's one of the things I enjoy most about Formula 1. Things change all the time. Predictions don't always come true, and that's what keeps the sport so interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If Max Verstappen were ever to leave Red Bull in the future, who do you think would be the right person to replace him? Would you promote someone from Red Bull's junior program? Would you consider Oliver Bearman, or is there someone else you think would be the ideal choice? Let me know down in the comments below, because I'm genuinely interested to hear what you think. As always, let's keep the discussion respectful. It's absolutely fine to disagree. We all watch Formula 1 differently, and that's part of what makes these conversations enjoyable. And before I finish, just one final reminder: everything I've discussed in this video is my personal opinion based on publicly available information. I'm not making factual claims about anyone's future. I'm not claiming any rumored move will happen, and I have no insider knowledge whatsoever. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, because it really helps the channel. If you're new here and enjoy Formula 1 discussions like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate your support. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone.